Okay, first off, I want everybody just to picture this. I'm sure everybody's been in a position where it's late at night and you're driving home. Say you're stopped at a red light and it turns green. You have the right of way to go, you step on the gas. Now this part I'm sure probably everybody hasn't been a part of, but a car runs a red light and hits you from the side. You could be greatly injured in this, end up in the hospital, die, or be fine and just have your car totaled. You might not have insurance, or you might have insurance that's not going to pay for as much of your car as they should. This happens all the time because of drunk driving. And drunk driving is way more common than a lot of people believe. According to Buzzle.com, 3 out of every 10 people in the United States are involved in one way or another in a drunk driving accident at least once in their life. Drunk driving accidents occur every 45 minutes in the U.S. That means that while we're in this class, at least 2 people are getting hit by drunk drivers somewhere in the United States. It's not a really good thing to think about. And it even says on Buzzle.com that in 2002, 159 million drunk driving trips were taken. That means that 159 million times somebody got drunk and got behind the wheel of their car. How many times they hit somebody, how many times they got in an accident themselves, or how many times they just made it home, made some food and went to sleep, really doesn't matter, because every time you step behind the car and you're impaired, you have the chance to hurt somebody. So if I get anything across with this speech, it's that it's not worth it to drink and drive. With people drinking and driving this often, what are the motives? The first thing that you have to ask yourself is why? Why would you do that? I mean, obviously first, if you're drunk, you're not thinking as rationally as you would be anyways. 2, maybe you just want to get home, sleep in your own bed, and you can't stay where you're at the night, and you have to leave. All these can really be avoided. I mean, you could get somebody to drive you home. I know where I live in La Mirada, there are dollar rides where you can get a cheap ride, way cheaper than a taxi, back to your house. Or if you have a little money, you can get a taxi. Any of this can be avoided, even if you have to go as far as sleeping in your car for the night, at least until you sober up in the morning. But drinking and driving does have really, really serious consequences for you and for the people around you. According to EdgarSnyder.com, there was 11,773 deaths in the United States in the year 2008 alone, just because of drunk drivers. And even more than that, 275,000 people were injured that very same year due to drunk driving. So that's over 300,000 deaths and injuries in 1 year due to drunk driving. Drinking really does impair your coordination, and so, of course, you have to expect that when you get behind the wheel, you're not going to be able to drive up to your full capabilities. And really there is, no limit of what you can do to hurt somebody. One of my friends, personal experience, was sober driving home one day, and the exact same scenario that I painted at the beginning of this speech. He was stopped at a red light, and he hit the gas for green, and he went and his car got hurt. His car got hit from the side. He ended up being fine. He was in the hospital, but just scratches and a little bit of whiplash. But it could have ended up way worse for him. And he chronically drunk drove before, so the fact that he was on the other side of that kind of really opened his eyes, and he doesn't do it at all anymore. And so anybody can get hurt. You can hurt yourself. You could get in an accident all by yourself and end up flipping your car or just hurting yourself with nobody else involved, which isn't quite as bad as hurting someone else, but nobody still wants to be in that position. And aside from that, even if you don't hurt anybody else, there are a lot of legal trouble you could get into. Getting in trouble for drinking and driving, if you do get pulled over, can be anywhere from just a DUI with community service, possible like jail time, or if you do hit somebody and you do kill them, you can get anywhere from involuntary manslaughter all the way up to first-degree murder. And once again, another one of my friends had a little run-in with the law back when we were in high school. And don't worry, nobody got hurt, he didn't hit anybody, but he did end up ruining his car and his life for about a year. We had a party back in high school, and we took his keys a long time ago because he was kind of belligerent. And I don't know why, but for some reason he tricked us into thinking he was going to go sleep in his car. So we give him back his keys because we weren't really thinking too well either. And he decides to get behind the wheel and drive. Now, even worse than this is the fact that the week before he went out and saw the movie Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. So what he's basically been doing all week was drifting his car around every turn in our city. And he decided, when he's driving home at 3 in the morning, to go down this hill which curves into a 90-degree turn. And he went and he drifted it, and his car ended up hitting the curb, and it flipped on its side, and the car was totaled, and he was fine. He ended up pushing his car back over, and he was caught by the police trying to start up his car, which he had just flipped back over. And not the smartest thing, but what happened to him, since he was underage, he ended up being on probation with no license for 1.5 years, and he really couldn't do anything. He almost got thrown out of school, and we really couldn't hang out with this guy who was one of our best friends for a few years now. We couldn't hang out with him for our entire senior year, and so it really ruined his entire senior year. And just, he knows that he could have hurt somebody doing that because he had no clue exactly what he was doing. And this is just, one of the few reasons why drinking and driving is just not worth it. No matter what you have to do, you should never, ever get behind the wheel if you're impaired. Hundreds of thousands of people get hurt every year due to drinking and driving, and that's just in the United States. And while I've been up here giving this speech, according to the statistics I told you earlier, there's a 25% chance that somebody's gotten in an accident while I've been talking right now. So just think about that, and if you're ever in a position where you don't have a ride home and you have had even just a little bit to drink, please, please don't do it. Because even if you're fine, you could get pulled over and you could get a DUI, you could get your license suspended, you'll be in trouble with the law, and you could hurt somebody else or yourself. And these are things that you never want to live with. If you should hurt somebody and they should die, you never want to have that on your conscience. And these are just all reasons why drinking and driving is a terrible, terrible thing. And also, the movie Tokyo Drift is not that good of a movie to recommend if you're driving.
So, Daryl, what did you think?
You had a great attention grabber. Drinking and driving is like a very common topic, but you kept it. I liked it because you kept it simple. You had a lot of humor, so it kept us wanting to hear more. You clearly did your research. You did very well. You gave a lot of your own examples. You did good eye contact.
Okay. Yeah. The visualization at the beginning is dramatic. It seemed like you went in a whole bunch of different directions when you were going from that. This could be, or maybe you don't have insurance, and I wasn't really focusing on where you were going. But once you identified what the topic was, I thought you had much better follow through with some of the statistics that you used to show the frequency with which drunk driving occurs, the accidents that are going on, and you even had the number thing for the amount of time that we're together. So I thought that worked pretty well. Identifying the subject. You still need a stronger preview of what the contents are going to be, but it sounded pretty well organized while you were speaking. I didn't get lost at any time. The contents, you were very consistent early on about citing your information. I thought that was pretty reasonable. To be honest, the information is not that hard to come across. It's very basic kind of stuff. Like Daryl said, this is a subject that people talk about frequently, and you did an adequate job on that part of the argument. So I think the other thing that you might want to spend a little bit of time on, and you started to, was talk about people's motivations. Why would they do this when they know it's not something that they ought to be doing? Well, first of all, they're intoxicated, so their judgment is impaired somehow. Maybe their friends are not as careful as they ought to be. You acknowledge in the one example that you and your friends, you knew this person was a danger. You probably shouldn't have did it, but you let yourselves get talked into. It wouldn't surprise me at all that all the friends were also, their judgment was somewhat impaired in deciding to allow him to have his keys back to go sleep in his car. Talk about a lame excuse, and you bought that one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
You've done it before.
Yeah. Well, the examples are the examples are good, and they personalize it, and they give you a little bit of credibility on that. So I think you do okay on some of those emotional things. I think there's more information that you can get in here that would make an even stronger appeal on emotions. For instance, if instead of just talking about people who die, which is horrible, tragic, awful, bad, and there are plenty of stories about that, and anytime somebody tells one of those stories, it can be heartrending in a speech like this. I tell you what, there's that poem. Did you come across the poem? Or the story the girl wrote, the letter that she supposedly wrote from beyond the grave to her mother? Holy criminy. You hear that one, you get tears in your eyes just sitting there listening to people read this thing and go, oh, geez, this is horrible, awful, bad. But I'm thinking, there are plenty of people out there who get into car accidents